All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Everyday Men, Profound Conversations. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jonathan Richardson, and I'm here today with my fellow co-hosts, MKP brothers, co-conspirators, and comrades. We have Brenton Ruger, Adam McConnell, we have Ken Emmer behind the scenes, and we represent Mankind Project of Greater Carolinas. These are monthly interviews covering a wide range of topics centered around radical change, social and racial justice, health matters, sexuality, gender studies. Each individual interview features a guest who specializes in these topics. We offer this platform to expand our boundaries, push the envelope for change, bringing awareness to those who may be curious but do not know where to start searching. Our shows are sponsored by the Mankind Project of Greater Carolina, a chapter of the MKP USA, which is a global organization whose primary focus is on wellness for men. As initiated men, we are responsible for our own well-being, and we offer support in any way we are capable of for our fellow brothers who are in need. So, peeps, this month our guest is Harold Singletary. It's an honor to be here, have you here, brother. This brother is a community leader, serial entrepreneur, motivated soul, and CEO of BrightMa Farms, a vertically integrated, minority-owned, and veteran-managed hemp group with corporate offices in Charleston, South Carolina, and Grow Campus located in Cordesville, South Carolina. So the topic today is representation matters. Diversity, equity, and inclusion in the hemp marketplace. So BrightMa Farms is striving to create diversity, equity, and inclusion, the DIE for short. These are opportunities in the hemp industry, setting a global footprint that will champion the South Carolina circular economy and pave the way nationally with economic development designed to benefit businesses, society, and environment. What they call the triple bottom line, people, planet, profit. This transformative model is based on principles of integrity, transparency, compliance, and social and environmental sustainability. In order for this circular economy to thrive, a systemic change has to happen. We need to increase and accelerate our efforts to develop common visions, contextual understanding, and motivational experiences, building knowledge and spurring cooperation. Fellas, thank you. Thank you for being here. Harold, most honored to be here. Welcome.
Yeah, man. Peace and blessings. Good to be here.
Awesome. Great to have you. So why don't we just get into it? Yeah, we have a lot to discuss and minimal time. So, just go ahead and introduce yourself, brother. Let us know a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, thank you again. It's exciting to be here. I'm honored to be a part of the Everyday Men Mankind Project. My name is Harold Singletary. I'm the CEO and founder of BrightMa Farms. As stated through that intro, serial entrepreneur, motivated soul, and always about test driving dreams. I come from a background of finance and accounting. I'm a former CFO for a large developer here, but I also own my own tax and accounting business that's been running for 20 years. So understanding that finance and structure allowed me to support other entrepreneurs and keep kind of my serial mindset in place, even if it was through channeling and being an asset for others to follow or to support their dreams. And I talk back about legacy and family. I come from a legacy of people that were entrepreneurs that found a way to persevere, even when, the structure was not set up for them to succeed. And so, we can go into the line of the legacy and story of BrightMa. BrightMa, in 1865, she was a 25-year-old slave field hand, and her name was Katie. She was later known as BrightMa to her descendants, and she was freed from the Ball's Buck Hall plantation, after which she took the surname Hayward. And with her husband, Zachariah, they built their own home, settled their family on a 10-acre tract of land in Cordesville, South Carolina, not far from where she was enslaved. BrightMa is my great-great-grandmother. And that heirs property has been in my family ever since she first put her hands in the soil. There's also an African-American exhibit in the Smithsonian that has my family in it. There was a Time magazine article written around 93, 94 with author Ed Ball, who was from this area. He wrote the book Slaves in the Family. I was actually in the military at the time when I got a call from my mom saying, wow, this amazing history of our lineage to America is coming to light, right? Without Ed Ball kind of defying his family and probably being disowned for bringing out the truth, a lot of BrightMa's history wouldn't have been known direct. They were given to me as stories as a kid through my grandmother who spoke of her. And my grandmother's name was Katie, so she was named after her grandmother, BrightMa. My grandmother, my mom, and my aunt were also on Oprah Winfrey with Ed Ball discussing this book and kind of the life of African Americans during that time in the South. But we launched our indoor grow campus in 2018 on this very same heirs property. And I promise you, we launched as low country hemp extracts, but every day I was out there on that land, the ancestors were talking to me, and it's like, there's no way I could not give love and respect to the legacy of BrightMa, which is now why I could launch this opportunity, because of this land that stayed in my family. So we quickly recognized that our future would be bright as BrightMa Farms. And so we took her name and built it around her legacy. But BrightMa Farms is a vertical certified minority business enterprise. We're a veteran managed hemp group in our corporate offices in Charleston. We have a 10-acre indoor grow campus in Moncks Corner. And we just recently acquired 80 acres in South Carolina and plan on developing that in 2022 for our BrightMa Innovation Center and Breeding Program, which will definitely impact and disrupt this industrial hemp industry in North America, starting with quality genetics. So not to take over the call, I know there's going to be questions, because I could keep running, guys. So that's kind of the intro. That's some legacy and some history right there.
You're making our job real easy. I like it. You're right. And so speaking of that, Harold, we could talk about, I think right now, I think it would be good to go ahead and give an introduction to the hemp plant, and then maybe go back in history just a little bit to some of the, how it got to this country, and we could, maybe summarize that a little bit. But I think for our viewers to understand what hemp is and why it's so important in the world and why we're having this conversation, but then how it also connects to what's going on in the United States culturally and from a financial standpoint and from a generational wealth standpoint. I think we could travel back in history, but could you give us a little rundown on the plant itself? And
yeah. The hemp, hemp and cannabis is a miracle plant, right? It was given to us by the Most High. And when you look at it, the plant came over just like rice coming over from Africa, from the enslaved people that brought these items over. In the South, we know rice is big, especially coming from South Carolina. Most of our dishes has rice in it, right? But that came on the hands and the backs of enslaved people that brought it here. And then let's look at the correlation of bringing that plant over. It was used in World War II, right? Farmers were required to farm 10 acres of hemp. We look at, also just thinking, okay, I have a pit bull, you have a Rottweiler. We still call it a dog, right? So hemp and cannabis, there's a variation in its trait that hemp has 0.3 THC that makes it hemp. Cannabis can go with high THC, which is, what gives you, that high, right? And so when we think about hemp, the plant, it can be used for so many different verticals, but even in the early 1930s, Henry Ford was using hemp. He built a 90% hemp vehicle, ran it on hemp ethanol, but then Prohibition banned it, threw it on the substance list with marijuana as well, But here I go to say, we lost all of this gap in time for additional research. Big Pharma didn't want the plant on the market. Oil industry, steel industry, paper industry, fuel industry, you know, it goes on. But we lost this research time, and now we're in this place of climate change and the effect, right, that is happening on the planet. And when I say circular economy, we talk, you know, the process of not using in our linear mode of thinking where we make, use, throw away. Let's bring that back and recycle, right? And stop using these finite resources, which is kind of hurting the planet. But go ahead, you had a question.
Well, just wanted to touch on that. So they made it a Schedule 1. Mm-hmm. That right up there with like heroin and drugs that have no medicinal use whatsoever. And now we realize it has immense medicinal use and other uses. So I just wanted to point that out. And that's kind of what happened. They put it in a Schedule 1 classification, which it should be down at maybe 5, or I don't know how that works.
Shouldn't even be on the list, to be honest.
I was just going to say that.
You know,
that's a big piece of why, you know, and then kind of why they did that at that time is pretty profound.
And you see, and it's hard to kind of fathom that, you know, Big Pharma can throw opioids out there. And I'll talk about how I even launched into this when I was dealing with my mom, who I lost 6 years ago to bone cancer. And I looked at the doctor, I was like, man, you're giving her morphine, oxy, Lyrica, like all of these high-end opioids. I could walk in the room. She doesn't even know I'm in the room. I was like, let's manage pain using, you know, hemp, CBD, THC blend to find that fine line that where she can still communicate, have a quality of life. And the opioid epidemic is real. It's touched politicians' homes. It's touched the low-income homes. It's touched everybody. And we see how aggressive this is. But if Big Pharma can say, oh, this is okay for society, then we've lost, you know, ourselves in this fight. And we see the change coming on the states, but it needs to be deregulated. We have people in jail for marijuana, which is ridiculous. You know, so, you know, the opportunity, we have a lot of them. I call obstacles and issues at hand opportunities. And my team, we approach our business that way. That way we're always driven to find solutions, right?
Yeah. Indeed. I in the topic of economics, I kind of joke with myself every now and again, because when the conversation of hemp or cannabis comes up, you know, I grew up pretty not poor in poverty, but I was a good candidate to be one of them kids on the corner, you know, selling and things like that. But, you know, of course, we all share a common fear of incarceration. But in my case, there was a lot of opportunity from a business standpoint. You know, I missed out on a lot of opportunities to be an entrepreneur out of fear of incarceration. I knew some kids who just went to jail just for the small, minute amounts of possession, things like that. And it just wreaked havoc. Just that fear just wreaked havoc throughout my community. I kind of wish somebody would, you know, maybe bring up a lawsuit against the government for lost wages.
Well,
but
you know, think about this though, Jonathan. You're right. Like you said, bring up a lawsuit. Let's just kind of bring that back, right, a little bit, because BrightMa, we are science enthusiasts. We always work around fact-based information. We try to bring impact that's sustainable. Currently, we have a collaboration agreement with all 19 of the 18 land grant schools. So what's a land grant school? In 1860, the Morrill Act, or 1862, the Morrill Act came into place. And he was a senator from Vermont that agreed that all Americans should have access to education, right? He submitted this act for approval, got pushed down, but then put into place in 1862 with President Lincoln signing. And quickly after that, he signed the Emancipation Proclamation which was intended to outlaw slavery, right? But in 1863, with the stroke of a pen, 3.5 million plus enslaved people of African descent were no longer required to be property of others. and perform pain-inducing free labor. I said it again, pain-inducing free labor. We built this country, yet there was no infrastructure in place to adequately provide for those new Americans that, you know, capital to be, or capital to move from being human property to being land property owners, nor was there formal education opportunity to advance themselves and take care of their family. So let's talk generational wealth, because these four founding people had generational wealth that then passed over in trust. They were always a big gap ahead of those that built the country, right? Yeah. There is no 40 acres and a mule theory here, right? The Indians got some form of that. And, you know, we lied to our children. We lied to ourselves through education. Christopher Columbus didn't find shit. Let's be real. You know, people were already here. Like, but you look at this impact from 1862 to 1890, because even when the Morrill Act came into place, African Americans weren't allowed to even go to these schools, right? We still had the Southern Jim Crow laws, segregation laws that still impacted people. So there was always a disadvantage and a gap. Let's talk about those facts. So you said, man, I wish somebody could sue the government for all this free labor. Well, hell, they never did, right? Recover from this group of people to have some opportunity to really be free. You know, they were free from chains, but not truly to chart their own course as their white counterparts were now being given the tools to do so. So 28 years later, the 1890 Act was then put into place so that historically Black colleges could be created where these people could be educated. That's 28 years after the 1862 Morrill Act that created like the Clemson universities, the North Carolina State universities. These are land grant schools. I work with them all. But I see a gap if I go on South Carolina State campus versus Clemson campus. Clemson has 5 silos in South Carolina, 1,000-acre tracts of land that they get to do and play around with research and development. South Carolina State just did a groundbreaking this year on a 300-acre farm. They were a land grant school since 1890. Let's wake up and see the disconnect. Yeah. So we still got a lot of opportunities, a lot of work to do. Systemic racism has now been put in front of us through digital technology. This shit's been going on since the early 1700s, you know? So here we are, but let's change the narrative together.
Yeah. And so weighing in, oh, go ahead, Adam.
Just, you know, the historic sort of, I don't even know, really tragic. It's really just, it's criminal, right? But my question is, thinking about capital formation, thinking about how you were able to leverage your family's asset in the land in order to sort of, you know, bring your organization to, you know, a very sustainable business model. In my experience, the lack of capital, access to capital is really, really problematic, whether that's for buying a first home, starting a small business, you know, and when you're looking at large land that you need for agricultural purposes, you know, you need a lot of capital. Yep. And I don't know how we move forward. And you know, we talked previously on the show, we talked a little bit about reparations and like how that may play a potential role in getting some access to capital to those who have been underrepresented over the years and oppressed over the years. But moving forward within your industry, how accessible, I know there's a lot of money in cannabis and hemp right now, industrial hemp right now. Where's the capital coming from, and how do we get that capital into hands of other African-American business people?
That's a good question, you know, and, you know, to backtrack a little for me, like even my grandmother, Katie Roper, who left me the land, she had a 6th grade education, but she was an entrepreneur during the Jim Crow era. And had an open air market. My grandfather was a farmer. I grew up on a farm as a kid. I saw it firsthand, but I was like, shit, this is hard work. Like, this is hard work. I wanted to understand business. They understood their trade, but they also had bad predatory banking, right? So a lot of the land that my family farmed when on James Island was taken due to bad banking loans that they knew this group of people couldn't fulfill. And you don't replace land, right? But my grandmother was smart enough on the land that was in Cordesville that was on her mother's side to use her money to keep paying taxes. For me, when she did give it to me, I was like, what am I going to do with this 10-acre tract in the country, right? In rural Cordesville, Monk's Corner. I'm going to keep paying the taxes and I'll keep moving in life. I was building other opportunities. Me and one of my business partners, Sherman Evans, we have a consulting company. We're sitting in a room with a group of medical doctors that were doing work around opioid epidemic and using cannabis to get people off, wean them off of opioids. And they really wanted to, write scripts and have a dispensary if South Carolina ever woke up. And that's when I was like, Sherman, like they're on this side of the spectrum. We need to be where in the cultivation, the growth of it, right? We need to understand the genetics. We need to be there so that we can supply quality, cannabis or hemp to the industry. And I said, I got 10 acres, let's figure this out. And, there wasn't any capital that I could walk into a bank, even with the 10-acre tract of land, that people would believe in this high risk market. But I had a network because I'm a serial entrepreneur. I networked with people. I had a vision. I had a story that was surreal that I just gave you. I couldn't make it up. It's that track record that I can walk into spaces and command attention, command the room. And so through my network, I raised my initial capital to create impact and show my footprint. Now I have the capability to go through, financing, through banking, through VC approach. So I say to people, and I was just a speaker at the GrowCo Summit talking about BrightMa and diversity, equity, inclusion strategies. There's money in the market to support minority businesses, but if you don't have a seat at the table or the information isn't shared, you don't get to that table, right? So it's always about network expansion, looking at the USDA that's doing a lot more things now to support the farmers that were displaced. The USDA was not there to support minority farmers. And if you look at it, we were the early adopters. We were the one that farmed the land of this country, but now the paradigm is flipped over. It's like, we're the lower percentage of agricultural impact group versus, our counterparts. And so a lot of that land was taken, so, there are financing opportunities through state regulation entities, through venture capitalists, but you have to present a full opportunity, right? Because anybody that's investing still has to see revenue generation opportunities. So, our blueprint is to educate before you get to trying to say, I'm going to put seeds in the ground. You still have to do some research and educate on how to cultivate the plant. This is not corn, Monsanto corn. This is not, tomatoes, cabbage. There's still a process of cultivating, harvesting, and going to market. For me, being an accountant, I've always had a vision board mentality where we start from, the end result to the beginning. How do we get started? Well, we jumped also to the end, because how do we go to market when this is a new environment? Everyone saturated the market and went to CBD, health and wellness, where we were looking at this plant as a miracle plant. And, in the South, we say from the rooter to the tutor, nothing gets left on the hog. Well, I wanted to do the same thing to the hemp plant, from the roots to the heart, baby. Let's figure out how do we monetize it. And, so yeah, hopefully I answered that question. Like there's capital there, but you have to kind of do your due diligence and find ways to get to those markets and strategies. But you have to have a business plan that is structured to support the capital.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Speaking of generating revenue, what product do you sell? Like, where does the finished product? Where does that? How does that work?
Yeah, so we cultivate. We're a licensed nursery, so we bring advanced genetics to farmers, right? Trying to de-risk their opportunity and knowing that they're getting quality genetics. Being that this plant has been demonized so long and the government burnt all of our stockpile of genetic history, we're starting from zero. I've seen farmers, get seeds, have to burn their harvest because it went hot, right? Or we're in the South, we get high humidity, they got botrytis, fusarium issues. Where we went to the science of it and have a joint venture partnership that will impact and disrupt North America's hemp and cannabis industry with science, right? We have now have the capability to genome map the traits of the plant, and I can take away THC. I can give you a botrytis resistant genetic. I can give you high CBD, no THC. I can give you vegetative crops. I can, where you're just using a leaf, or high lignin and cellulose if you're doing biopaper, bioplastic, those type of functionalities. So using the science. So for us, BrightMa Farms, we do boutique indoor grow. Like this plant picture behind me is one of our plants. It's very colorful, fall colors on it. We can do, boutique flower grows. We do sell rooted clones and seeds to farmers so that they have a quality genetic going in the ground. We've been doing an R&D project in the automotive industry for the last 2 years, using our hemp fiber to create a hemp pellet that then gets molded into a car part. We wrote a Department of Energy proposal for biofuel using hemp as the feedstock, all right, so that we can create biofuel. So we look to engage disrupting paper, plastic, fuel, health and wellness. But BrightMa, you can go and get several CBD products. You can get hemp hearts for protein. Hemp hearts has more protein than soy. Soy is a commodity that the government also gives stipend to farmers when the price drops. And that could be for hemp as well. Let's give our farmers an opportunity to have tri-crops. And, hemp is a remediator. It remediates soils. It pulls toxins out of the soil. So we have an opportunity to disrupt several industries that kind of why it was put on that banned substance list, immediately. So,
yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the most fascinating aspects to me about this plant is the genetics, and that you can actually grow a varietal for all of those specific needs. And that's one of the reasons you guys have reached out to Sweden, from what I understand, and the genetics over there is pretty forward.
Yeah.
And they've been able to educate you and really help direct you guys in your propagation of that. I mean, that's to me why I agree with you. And it's called a miracle plant. I mean, and when you talk about disrupting, you mean from a standpoint of sustainability, disrupting the old markets that are taking from the earth and create similar products that actually are giving back to the earth and replenishing in many ways and sustainable.
Perfect. I mean, look, I can throw hemp seeds in the ground in 120 days. I'm harvesting, but we'll go tear down on the forest for paper products and different things, even biofuel. For what? Like, it takes 20 years to kind of regrow a tree. We talk about carbon sequestration, and this plant is so impactful. I go to restaurants now in Charleston. Everybody's trying to be green, and they're using these paper straws. You take one sip, the straw is sitting in your damn drink. You're like, let me make a hemp straw, right? Like, I could show you technologies in Europe, that are being used. I've sat into pitch deck meetings with BMW, Boeing, talk to Hyundai. I talked to all of these companies, and hey, they're like, Harold, BrightMa, we love the story. We love the impact. Yeah, we understand hemp. Would you mind shipping it over to Munich? I'm like, you have a BMW plant in the upstate. You guys are using hemp fibers, but you take a part, you ship it across the pond. They put the hemp part on, they ship it back, and you build a car. Like, give us the sustainable opportunity for our farmers, right? So this is not new. And that's why I had to go across the pond, because their research has been that much more advanced, because they never stop utilizing this miracle plant or doing research with the miracle plant. So I have PhD scientists behind me, that have breaking down, have technology that will disrupt this industry and give people quality genetics with science backup. And that's the impact we look to bring. We look to educate, we look to continue to do research and bring those supply chains back. But a major part of that is infrastructure. Right. Yeah. So there's got to be some government funding around that support. You want to affect climate change? We'll bring the infrastructure and watch us bring a circular economy with sustainable impact using industrial hemp. Bottom line. And I'm a pro friend of cannabis. I'm a veteran, that's had PTSD. Like, I get it, but I don't want to be on an opioid. I promise you that, versus the opportunity to, de-risk or de-stress or manage pain or anxiety with this miracle plant.
Yeah. And that's part of what I really want to impress on our viewers, and what this interview brings is more education on what the immense benefits of this plant, and how, if we, because I think government is ultimately going to make certain decisions, but if we as people become more educated, and as we're seeing the impacts on the earth around us, and what's going on in the world, to impart some of this knowledge about how many uses this plant has, how potent it is, and how sustainable it is. To me, that's an important piece of this conversation. So thanks for sharing that.
For sure. Unlimited opportunities. We're in a linear model of make, use, throw away. When I say circular is regenerative by design. It aims to gradually decouple growth from the consumption of finite resources. This is what we have to do. Hemp is both restorative and regenerative, and it's an ideal industrial crop. Like, it's a no-brainer, from paper, plastic, textile, fuel, protein. It can do it all, and pain and health and wellness, right? So let's dive into the fact-based information, which is the research. Put the funding there, and let's bring impact for the next generation of thought leaders and inventors. Bottom line, because this planet won't be here if we continue on this linear model of thinking. Go to a landfill and see what's there. I was in a room with the CEO of Payless Shoes, and I was pitching, and we did our BrightMa impact story, and he was like, give me 5 HBCUs of BrightMa I can impact. He told me, I didn't realize that the Payless shoe was 100% plastic. Everything on the shoe is plastic. What do you do with a plastic shoe? Nothing, right? It's not going to break down. It'll sit in the landfill forever. But let's create some bioplastics. I'm like, hey, pharmaceutical industry, you guys put a lot of money behind R&D. Let's create a biodegradable bottle made out of hemp, so it's not sitting in the landfill forever. Let's let it go back in the soil. If it's made from hemp, it will actually restore the soil. So these are things we got to do the research. We got to invest in it, and that circular economy model allows us to then incorporate the farmers, small, large, mid-scale, right, with quality genetics, but they know at the end of the day, they have a PO waiting on them that they can cultivate, harvest, go to market. We go into processing. We build a supply chain with end users, OEM manufacturers, processing of hemp, and the cultivation. We have a great opportunity here, guys.
Yeah. Who process? And I know I would imagine there's a little bit of a shortage of processing.
Yes.
Is that I understand?
That is true. And that's where the impact and the cost. And I mentioned BrightMa's Innovation Center, that we call it the BIC, will be in Orangeburg. That'll be a part of our breeding program. But we also have an industrial hemp processing site so that we can go into the various verticals that we just talked about. That's going to require, a substantial amount of capital in. We 2.5 in just to be in this game. And we're looking at 25 million to really disrupt and have our triangle research part. But I believe in our process and what we're doing. I know that we can impact and bring change, but also allow other people to create generational wealth by this blueprint. So it will take that. And you're right that, there are processes to extract oil because everybody ran to CBD health and wellness, but I'm talking fiber, textile, decottonization. I'm talking, milling, chipping to get to a spec for plastic and paper. Like, there's an infrastructure that needs to be incorporated. And, being an early adopter and a stakeholder, you bridge those gaps and you walk down a fiery blaze road that nobody can see but you and as a visionary, right? But that's what we look to bring, though. We're here.
All right.
Nice.
Harold, a question. You're not the only group in this marketplace, but one of the largest in the region. As other areas of the country are sort of lifting the prohibitions on marijuana and hemp and so forth, do you feel like the laws here in South Carolina and in Southeast in general are holding you back from actually achieving what you could? Or are you at a disadvantage because of local prohibitions?
No, I know we're on the Bible Belt, right? We approach things differently in South Carolina, but South Carolina's majority rural. Outside of Charleston, Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg, the manufacturing impact areas, there's a lot of rural land that's not totally being utilized. But if we change our thought process, we can impact those small communities and having processing hubs, almost like when cotton and textile was big for South Carolina. And you look, there's several abandoned old mills, right? Like, how do we bring those things back to life and impact with state money and support? But yeah, no, I hope that South Carolina will wake up here very soon and may take, the deregulation of it by the federal before South Carolina wakes up. On the hemp side, we still got some language and education to do. So imagine this, I'm working in the automotive hemp fiber space, but I'm still regulated to the 0.3 hemp THC. Like, who really cares if it had 0.5 THC? It's going on a car part. Nobody's smoking the car part. Okay, guys, like, why? Let's change. If I'm using it, if it's for industrial hemp application, it shouldn't be regulated to a consumption, of the product. It's going into a different space, even if it's paper, plastic. Like, so there's some gaps there, but that's why I had to go across the pond, right? So that I could de-risk and put consistent, sustainable genetics downrange for farmers that take away the THC concern of thought. I can do that now. We can breed genetics that are specific to tailored markets. And so that will bring the impact we need on one angle. But now we have to do the infrastructure component as well to make sure it can go to market with strategies. The likes of Boeing, Volvo, Ford Motor Company, like, I could call out several company names that are using hemp in their products, but without the infrastructure to support America's being in that supply chain, then they're going to keep doing what they're doing in Germany and Europe as well, because they have that in place. But we need to look at that model. I consistently work and speak in spaces with politicians, Congressman Clyburn, Senator Tim Scott, even in DC, through the support of some lobbyists that I'm associated with. So we're always in these rooms. We're always ready to have these conversations so that we can aggregate change. And usually when I walk on the Hill, I don't even speak cannabis. I strictly talk sustainability with hemp so that it doesn't fall on deaf ears, right? Because some of these same people are like, oh, no, cannabis is bad for our children. But I'm like, you're going to give your child Adderall or some opioid and think that that's not disrupting their quality of life. So you got to find a fine line and depend on the room.
Yeah. This past week, Nancy Mace submitted some legislation in Washington. Were you engaged with her in that process, or were your lobbyists that you engaged with?
Yeah, they were engaged, and so many associates. I was super excited to hear that news, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We just still have to continually look at these opportunities and be present. The worst thing you can do is not be present, right? Or support those trying to bring that impact. I say to our community, send your senators and your congressmen letters, like they're there for you. Let's bring that impact and make this change in narrative together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I got a call from her on my cell phone. It was a voicemail from Nancy Mace. That was a recording, but she was sharing a little bit about that. It's so interesting. Yeah. It's something that you said, and it's just a piece. We don't have to go too deep into it, but the term it got hot, and that relates to when a crop goes above, and this is kind of speaks to the idea of genetics and keeping things where they need to be in those parameters that and regulations that are set. If it goes above a 0.3, as far as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, then that's considered it got hot, and they have to burn or tear down the whole crop. That's why it's so important to get it right through genetics, environment, all these other variables. And I really appreciate that you guys do that. And I can also appreciate the impact that could have if it does get hot, and what happens to you guys financially in that regard. If you got, 20 acres growing and you got to cut, I can't even imagine. So you're walking a real fine line here.
And that has happened. I've seen farmers, I've known farmers, like even us when we first started out, had to burn crops. Like, that's cost, that's time, that's labor, that's capital. You don't retain that back. And when I made that comment to say, this plant is a miracle plant, like, instead of you making me burn it, why can't I flip it to industrial where I could still use the hemp fibers, right? Or versus it being for health and wellness.
Right.
So the success stories are minimal in our state, even from a pilot program starting in 2017, because nobody understood that quality genetics would be where the seed of life and the opportunity really started. So us being a Clemson licensed nurseries, we got that quickly. Like I said, it was on our board. You know, we needed to create a circular economy. And where does it start? It starts with genetics. And so we can provide that for all farmers. We're excited to do so. We're excited to educate. We are aligned with South Carolina State doing industrial hemp trials now. You know, I got Tuskegee visiting here in December. Like, we didn't take a COVID break. Like, we worked. Yeah. So we're bringing impact. And we look to like have go-to-market strategies, educate people, farming as a business, right? And, you know, here's the accountant in me. From every point of that, we want to have a line item somehow. We want to bring impact, and we want to bring the farmer connection to the end user, right? Because when you could dial in specs based on science, based on the end user need, and you have an opportunity. Like this R&D with the automotive industry. I have an indoor grow. We're building out a breeding center. You know, we do have access to probably about 6,000 acres of farm. But for this automotive, that could be 1 million pounds of fiber a month. That's a lot of land to produce that, you know, to go to vehicle, you know, to go to market. So these are the things, like, let's do the R&Ds. I'm engaging everybody, you know, anybody I talk to, you know, that, you know, give us an R&D opportunity tied to university research. I don't care if it's Clemson, but Clemson also have to put a DEI in it, where they have an HBCU that also gets the piggyback, so that they get to bring their students in to understand, oh, this is what my major can lead to in a job. You know, I mean, kids go to school and don't realize how they get a job from the degree they just focused in, right? Let's give them real impact, man, not just in the book. Let's show them how you can, you know, be a plant biologist, but you could be working for a Ford or Boeing because you're using plant material in production. Like, let's create thinkers and inventors, man. Like, I'm so motivated on the opportunity. But yeah, you know, we're going to de-risk the THC issue. We're going to de-risk, you know, various disease issues. You know, we're bringing science and ag and technology. I told you guys I grew up on a farm, but I'm an accountant by trade. So, you know, I'm looking at this business model totally different. How do I bring technology, agriculture in the same room and create a perfect marriage for solutions? So
it's a beautiful marriage. And you guys, and we have viewers from all over the country, and you guys essentially operate in some capacity from, you said, Texas all the way up. So people watching this, you know,
now connect with me.
Reach out. Connect.
Yeah, Harold at brightmafarms.com. You can check our website. We're on Instagram, Facebook, social media. Drop us. I'm on LinkedIn. Drop me a ping. But yeah, we have. You know, I say it from Texas to Delaware, but you got to add Switzerland in now. We go across the pond. So, you know, and I said a story to my team. I have a great team, by the way. Brandon Hudson in cultivation, Sherman Evans, my chief strategy officer. John Mockvillin is my COO. I have Dwayne Green sitting in legal, you know, aspect. He's an attorney. And we test drive dreams, man. And our territory has expanded, not just from Texas to Delaware, but across the pond. BrightMa will eventually be back in Africa. We've been on with royalty in Ghana and Liberia. Obviously now with the Pure Gene relationship, we have South Africa. BrightMa will not alone just put her hands in the soil where she kind of put her base here, but we'll be back in Africa bringing impact as well. And we had that kind of off the call with St. Lucia and you, like, you know, we look to bring global impact. Like minds and souls do powerful things, man. So let's connect and let's bridge gaps.
Yeah, it's like you said, there's power in networking. I mean, that's
sure.
Quick question.
Harold, go ahead, John.
I'm sorry. Quick question. I'm a little the letters R and D.
Research and development. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Yeah, throwing the acronym. Yeah, we do a lot of R&D, research and development. That way we can bring impact solutions, right, for our opportunities. And no matter, like, you know, every room I speak in, I was like, if you have doubt, let's give it a try. Let's try it out. Let's test the model. But I know that this plant is a miracle plant and can sit in many of the spaces for advanced material composition, you know, for just material makeup and disrupting what we've torn down. Like finite resources have to stop being utilized in this linear model. We need a more sustainable circular model where we make, use, repeat, right? We bring it back in and turn it into a secondary byproduct. So, yeah.
Wow, that's
you had one, Adam?
I did have a question. I was really struck by, you were talking about some synergy between Clemson and the HBSUs, and then the my thought was how important representation is in that space. You as an African American entrepreneur, scientist with this amazing program behind you. I once met Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't even know who this guy is, but he's like the director of the National Museum of History in New York, and he's an African American astrophysicist. And he never had the experience of space until he went to like a planetarium. He went to school in Chicago, and in graduate school, he's talking about his experience. There's some question. I think a comet was coming by, so he got on the news, and it was the first time that he had saw an African American on the news talking about something besides either crime or poverty or something like that. And he's like, I'm just an African American talking about science, and it was the first time he saw that. And he leveraged that into like becoming one of the more popular scientists in the country. And I'm just struck by how important it is for you to be in that space as well. I know that you do a lot of networking, but also like from a mentorship perspective and for getting out in those areas. I mean, it must be a very powerful experience for you to hold that space. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a good one, Adam. And, being a highly motivated soul, I attract different groups. I have a very diverse group of people in my network, right? And, we often have conversations just like this one, some that are comfortable and not so comfortable. But also within my circle, I'm not the smartest one or the one always talking, right? There's got to be room to learn and also lift others while you're doing that. In these spaces, I know I sit in a space where there are not many African Americans in. Some of our best cultivators are in jail, right, for this demonized plant. People that understood this industry, retail in this industry. So I look to bridge gaps always. BrightMa, think about her legacy, right, and the impact we look to bring from coming from enslaved people to creating generational wealth on a small tract of land that has now expanded territories to where it is now. And we're not finished, right? So I bring hope. I bring consistent opportunities. And if I'm in the room, then all of those minorities are in the room as well, because I open a door that they now get to walk into. I look to continually be a resource. I'm an advocate for anyone that's motivated to be in this field, in this industry. We do a lot of research. We'll give them access to programs. We even wrote curriculum around cultivation. We have R&D projects that, as I said, I want the HBCUs to be involved with. And sometimes because of capacity, I will have to associate with PWIs, which for acronym, public white institutions, right, who have more funding, more access, more capability than a small HBCU has. But when I walk in that room, I'm going to say even the biofuel project we did with Clemson, the DEI strategy was tied to BrightMa bringing in HBCU 1890 land grants to also work with this proposal where we had BASF, we had BrightMa, JSCE Global, Ford Motor Company, all of these major companies were in this project. So now I gave access to the 1890s and these minority students to see this research real time. Right. So that's what we have to do, is bridge the gap. I don't want to be on the welfare mentality where it's just a handout and bye-bye. You haven't really helped those people. Like, how do you help them understand impact, sustainability? How do I create a company? Entrepreneurism, okay, seeing where my core career leads me into a job position. So, I'm all about sustainable impact and also giving people the leverage to then do it themselves.
Absolutely. Where do you, I read somewhere that in the stimulus package that President Biden proposed, there's supposed to be $5 billion towards Black farmers. Do you know any idea where that stands and how that can make its way here to South Carolina for you all?
Yeah, USDA is trying to do some things right now. So I said, check all the resource links, connect with someone that's in your region that's a USDA rep. There was also a Blue Ribbon Council I was also asked to be a part of, which is, I wouldn't call it reparation, but looking at the disadvantaged or displaced Black farmers that were taken advantage of. They're trying to put funding back into these opportunities, but funding without a pipeline to create residual income really is, like I said, the welfare mentality is like, okay, I'm gonna give you something, not go away, or you're gonna have to keep giving me something if you don't educate, right? How do I turn this stipend into residual income down the road? That's the impact needed. But even right now, Congress is stalled. We got this infrastructure package that partially got approved for roads and things like that. But in that infrastructure package, there were a lot of funding that was supposed to be for HBCUs. It's back and forth. It's going up. It's going down. There's no clarity there. That's why I say we got to reach out to our constituents and let them know we see what they're doing. We need this impact. But even in that infrastructure bill, I wanted to carve out, not just for the HBCUs, but I wanted to carve out for infrastructure to bring this supply chain model back to America. There's going to be a lot of capital needed, private, public, government, state, to impact large processing, large, research, technology hubs in various areas so that we bring the impact. But yeah, there's funding sources there. I always keep my eye on USDA, also within the state. Work with your Department of Commerce. They will connect you with end users to continually do R&D. So my mindset was not, we are farmers, but we're businessmen, right? And we're entrepreneurs that know that we need to definitely connect with our government, state, universities, and end users all in one room to create impact. So yeah, keep your eyes on every state site. Definitely start with the USDA. There are some grants and funding already being approved. BrightMa Farms is a SCRA company as well. We received $50,000 in a demo grant from them doing research and technology. So, like I said, you have to put yourselves in these rooms that bring you impact and bring you leverage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Take a deep breath there.
Yeah. Yeah, man, this is good, man. It's we have so many opportunities to champion a change in narrative, and guys, it starts with these type conversations. And like you said, Adam, working in city offices, but being an advocate and opening a door, even if it's not you having a conversation. Harold, I got an opportunity. I want Mayor Sami to hear this. How do we bring this impact? And I know Mayor Sami. I actually sat in his office. I was former CFO for developers, so we talked a lot to all the mayors. I would speed dial them guys just to get solutions. But we have to continue to have conversations. And in my intro, you said that Jonathan is having motivational experiences or aligned experiences so that we can see outcome and we can drive impact. I also hope to do some STEM and K-12 programs with the youth, right? Getting them to put their hands in the soil to see this miracle plant. And that's what our innovation center will be about, educating, but also bringing impact with realized sustainable solutions. So a lot of positive things to come, a lot of press about BrightMa there, but stay tuned, stay close. Our future is bright.
Indeed. Just share with us once again, or any additional links or things that you might see of people benefiting from.
Keep your eyes on, if you have any interest in South Carolina, South Carolina Department of Ag, they put a lot of resources there on just the hemp program, how to get licensed, if you want to be in processing, if you just want to be a handler. Think about in business within any supply chain, there's several models. If you don't want to cultivate or grow, but you want to have a dispensary, or if you want to, look at, working in this environment, there's so much information out that you can resource through the South Carolina Department of Ag. I work closely with the South Carolina Department of Commerce. All of the constituents in the state, they know of us. You know, we're going to knock on their door, even if they don't knock on ours. And I continually, like I said, be a part of conversation opportunities. So the one thing you could be is highly motivated, self-driven. And when one door closes, another one always opens, but you got to be motivated to kind of kick in doors. I'm 6'7". I told most people, if you crack the door, don't worry, I'll kick it in.
Well, I tell you what, man, every single question that I had in my head hoped to ask or bring to the table was discussed. I mean, in one way or other, we all just put our minds together and completed as much of this conversation as we possibly could within this time frame.
Well, you guys got the juices kicking off for Saturday morning, man. Like I said, we work 7 days a week over here, and I was excited when I got the call from you, John, that, you know, I could do this with you, and we're going to close out 2021 and kick off 22 high speed, low drag. So thank you guys again just for the invitation. Adam, Brenton, Eds, Jonathan, you know, man, we're family, bro. So let's keep building. You guys have done a great job here. Keep expanding territories. And I wish you all an amazing holiday with your family and friends. Stay safe and stay driven.
Yeah, you too, Harold. Thank you so much for the hope and all that you're doing.
Peace and love, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harold. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Just before we close up, I mean, Adam or Brenton, do you all want to share any closing comments or anything that you want to end this discussion with?
I'm just totally juiced right now. I love this topic. It's something I've been interested in for years and years and years. I'm not directly engaged in that space, but yeah, I'm so excited about learning a little bit more about what you're doing. I'm gonna probably reach out to you soon just to kind of get a sense of something a little deeper than we got in this conversation. But thank you so much, Harold.
I'll say, I just touched on something you said, Harold, that I live my life as, is focusing on the end result. And what does it look like down here? We may not know the steps to get there, but as long as we focus on that end result, those steps will become clear when we need to know them, but keeping our head up, staying positive. And this gives me, this plant, the work that you're doing, your team, which I know a few, giving me a lot of hope in the future, and it's reignited something in me. And so I believe that's a gift, and I thank you. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the work you guys are pioneering here in South Carolina, not only for the future of our country, but the generational wealth and bringing more balance into our country, and sharing what we are all so blessed to share here.
Well, thank you again. Thank you again, guys. Like I said, my access to me is always open. John knows that. And when he reached out, I quickly responded. I'm available and I'm accountable. And my team is the same. Together, we change this narrative and we bring impact to all. And so I'm driven and I'm highly motivated. I can't say that enough. I like entrepreneurs because you have to be highly motivated to be an entrepreneur. You know, every day you wake up, there's something to do, even when you go to sleep. And my team knows me. They're like, Harold, be mindful what you say, because I'm always pushing, right, the envelope. But I told my team, if your dreams ain't waking you up at night, you ain't dreaming big enough. Come walk with me, right? Let's go.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Respect, man. Respect. I appreciate you guys.
Respect. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been exciting. This is Jonathan Richardson, Adam McConnell, Brenton Ruger, Ken Immer, and the one and only Harold Singletary signing off. And until next time, just like our discussion, chime in at will and share if you are open to it. Okay. Until next time. Check out the
Mankind Project.
All right. Peace and love to the Mankind Project.
Peace and love. Thank you.